Every major opportunity really starts long before the story hits the headlines in the newspaper. So it starts in those quiet moments and there's little signals. You might see that a building, it changes hands. Perhaps there's a downtown area that's now getting a second look, or maybe there's a leadership change within the community. These are things that happen behind the scenes that we need to pay attention to as entrepreneurs and business owners. Smart business owners, they don't wait for the trends, they stay ahead of them by paying attention early. So I love using Jacksonville as the lens to what's happening in major cities because I feel like what we're going through, many other cities are probably going through as well. So my goal today with our guest is to pull out some of the lessons that business owners can take and use no matter where you are, whether you're in Jacksonville, Florida, or you're in California, or wherever you are, you can use these lessons. I'm Zelda Greenberg, and this is Success Through Connections. Today's guest is Karen Brune Mathis. And let me tell you a little bit about her. I've known her for many years. We're not going to even say how many years I've known her, but she has a front row seat to the businesses that are coming and going in our community and in our region. So she pays attention to what's happening and I never see her act under pressure. She's really a steady, calm voice. And she is currently the editor at large of the Jacksonville's Daily Record. It's a 113-year-old downtown-based business, and it covers government and legal. It's newspaper, and it's both online, digital, and in print. I love the print one. I'm sorry, I'm old school. I like the print. And she has served as the editor for over 7 years, and she previously was the managing editor. Now, before the Daily Record, she had many roles. She was the executive director of Dreams Come True. And this was a Jacksonville, it still is a Jacksonville-based nonprofit that fulfills the dreams of those children who are battling life-threatening diseases and medical conditions. And she was in that post for 3 years. But before that, she worked at the Florida Times Union as a reporter, an editor, and a columnist for the business and metro sections. She was also a producer, editor, and anchor of a weekly business program for Channel 7. She's a Missouri native. I've never met anyone from Missouri except for Karen. And she's a graduate of the University of Missouri's School of Journalism. She and her husband, retired circuit court judge Mac Mathis, have 2 adult children, and they also have a grandson and a granddaughter. So congratulations on that. Yay, being a grandparent. Welcome, Karen. I'm so glad you're here.
Oh, so glad to be here. Thank you so much.
So happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year.
Like, yay. So I'm just gonna dive right in. I got a bunch of questions. So
Go for it.
you have a front row seat to what's really happening inside of Jacksonville's business community. So I'm wondering, does this moment, now we're just starting 2026. Does this moment feel different from previous years' coverages?
Well, it does. And there is so much more to cover now compared to, especially when I first started in the business many years ago. Jacksonville has really grown. And you can see that throughout not only Duval County, which is Jacksonville, but the surrounding counties are really where the growth is moving because there's space there now for the growth. You see it north to Nassau County. You see it especially south to St. Johns County. You see Clay County, and you see Baker and Putnam counties and Flagler counties. All are getting a lot of more growth than they had. And I think that is what is attracting so many more residents because there's so many more places to live. And you, of course, know all about that.
Oh, yeah.
And we're bringing in businesses, we're bringing in the companies that are hiring folks and recruiting folks here. And then you see all of the other businesses that are coming in to serve the new population. So it's all huge. There's a lot going on.
So what are some of the early signs that you notice when a city is starting to shift economically? It's like even before maybe the conversation even starts.
You start seeing, let me go back. We follow a lot of the growth and progress through the records, and this is for planning purposes, water management, all of those ground level needs that need to be met before there is growth. And we track those, and we continue to see a lot of plans for housing developments, for apartments, and also there's a lot of industrial growth, a lot of industrial warehousing and factory type settings. And they're going all over. And you're seeing a lot of those in North Jacksonville. So what we do is we follow it from the ground level. And when we start seeing that happen, we know that there is going to be more retail, more residential, and more and more and more.
Yeah, it's the dominoes effect.
Definitely.
So you have to be paying attention. So I know that you recently covered the sale and the revitalization of our first mall, Regency Square Mall. I read that
Yes.
article. And from a reporting standpoint, what stood out to you about that particular story?
That particular story showed that there was interest in a developer by a developer in buying this property that had been for sale for a while and had just kept deteriorating. Now, the mall is an interesting property play because it's not all owned, or it wasn't all owned and still isn't by one owner.
Yeah,
You
I
have
found that interesting. I didn't
yes,
realize that. Yeah.
yes. When the most recent sellers bought the property, they did not buy the Sears, closed Sears, because that is owned separately, or the Dillard's Clearance Center, that is owned separately, but they bought the rest of the mall. Then they sold off the former Belk store in the middle to Impact Church. So you have different ownership on the property. So when the buyers came in, the new buyers, they could only buy the portions that were not separately owned. So then now they've started the planning to do what is the east end of the mall, and they're going to start with just putting in out parcels along Monument Road and Atlantic Boulevard. And that's where you're going to see the growth. And it's the first time we've seen really anything happening at Regency Square since Impact Church bought it and renovated their church. It's
Yeah.
been a long
Is
time.
is this a common thing that a mall, I mean, malls are old school at this point. I understand that. Is it normal that they're owned by, like, you have one department store owns one, another department, you have a church. Is that a common thing?
It's not uncommon, but you don't see it a lot only because it's very difficult for an owner to control a property when you don't control the property, if
Yeah.
that makes sense. Uh,
Yeah.
and so I think a lot of times in the past, Sears, Dillard's, and the big department stores wanted to control their properties. They wanted to own their own property rather than lease the property. So some of the older malls, you're going to see this a lot more. And there really aren't a lot of newer malls when you talk about the enclosed malls. Now, you have St. John's Town Center, which is a lifestyle open air, completely different type of property.
Totally different.
What's new? Mhm.
So when I think of these old malls and I'm thinking of, I didn't realize that those particular buildings were individually owned. So how does that work with, you have the common area? They don't own the common area or any part of the common area. They just own their store. Is that
Oh,
right?
with Sears, Sears owns it's the former chairman of Sears bought a lot of the closed Sears properties, and so that's owned by a company called Transformco. And then, of course, Dillard's owns its property. It doesn't own any of the interior of the mall. Interesting, when Dillard's Clearance Center I went in Dillard's Clearance Center before a lot of the mall was sold, and I was trying to get into that part of the mall just to see what it was like inside, and I couldn't find the entrance into the mall. I'm walking around, "Well, I've been here before and I can't find it." And then that just kind of solidified the fact that Dillard's owns that property.
Yeah,
Didn't
that
know
was,
any of the common area.
yeah, it was interesting. I found that fascinating. And then I thought, wow, that's got to be difficult to sell a building when you don't really have the entire building. You just own maybe the majority, but not all of it. So you're there's probably similar cities out there that are redeveloping over the years. So is there anything that, I mean, these retail spaces are being repurposed, I get it. What kinds of businesses tend to go into these types of situations and say, "Look, I mean, they're redeveloping, they're repurposing them." What kinds of businesses would go into something like this?
We see a lot of focus on maybe well, it depends if you keep the mall interior, or you demolish it. In Regency's situation, the owners want to demolish that entire east end of the mall, but keep the Penny store, the two-story J.C. Penney store is still existing on plans, which means something is in consideration for that. We don't know what that might is. It could be anything, but at Gateway, for example, their two-story J.C. Penney is becoming self-storage, a two-story self-storage center. So you never know what the buyers want to turn that property into. So I don't know yet what's happening. But if you do keep a mall interior, you have medical uses. We see a lot of that, some housing, and on Regency, when they demolish a lot of the property, you're going to see apartments and multifamily built on that site. So really, whatever the buyers are looking at, where they're going to make their money back, and are they going to sell the property for development or keep it on ground lease? We don't know all of that yet, but that's really the uses that you will see. I think medical and housing are two of the primary uses of mall properties.
I'm just trying to think what other businesses out there should be paying attention because if you're not in medical, what kinds of businesses would really do well? Obviously, some restaurants or some coffee
Mhm,
shops could do well in something like this. Just
mhm.
some of the mom and pops, rather than, the franchises and all that, I would think could do really well when they purpose these malls.
And they could, and they probably need to take a really good look at what the demographics are and what is needed in that area. Everybody knows, anybody who lives around a property knows what they would like to see there.
Right.
I think that's what the owners need to tap into that and say, what do you want? This is property in your neighborhood. What do you want to see there? You can see entertainment venues. That's another possibility. But right across from Regency, there is a mall, a strip center area that has turned into almost complete entertainment on
Yes.
one end of it. And you
Yeah.
see a roller skating rink and all kinds of things like that there.
That could be interesting. Yeah,
Mhm.
I have that. And there is still a movie theater out there,
There is.
so there is that. So let's shift for just a minute out of the malls and let's go to downtown. I know a lot of downtowns are probably hurting. Ours is hurt for so long. And I've heard so many stories and conversations about, you know, it's just up and down. It's like, okay, things are happening, things are not happening, things are happening, things are not. So it's just been a topic of conversation for a long time. So, based on what you hear, what feels like it's genuinely changing in our community and probably relates to other people's communities because our audience is not just Jacksonville based, it's all over the country. So, again, I'm using our audience, I'm using this as a lens for what could be happening in your community as well. So, let's talk a little bit about what it feels like. Is like, does it feel like it's really changing, or is this another, okay, we're on a momentum?
I think the fact that there's been money changing hands and there is construction downtown, I think there is momentum. The UF graduate campus definitely will be starting construction soon. That will be a big boost to downtown. The Gateway Jacks development, which is kind of northwest of downtown to start the Pearl Square district, that's huge momentum. There are apartment buildings visible under construction. You can go down and see them. They've signed a lease with Publix supermarkets to come downtown. And any downtown that's been not developing, when you sign the leading grocery store in your state to lease space there, shows that company has confidence in downtown. And Publix has a very wise real estate department, and they know where they're going to go and how well they're going to do and what they need for that to happen. So Publix is supposed to be opening downtown. That's a huge sign. You have down along the riverfront, and around the stadium, you have the Everbank Stadium being renovated into the stadium of the future. You have a new Four Seasons hotel well under construction. Go down, you can see it, and an office building next to it, which will be the headquarters for the Jacksonville Jaguars and also has office space for other companies. All of that is there. It is under construction. It is there. And so that is where the momentum shows. It's not just renderings, it's not just people planning, it's brick and mortar. and that's big for downtown.
That is big, and I love how you said at the beginning, how do you know when there's money changing hands?
When there's money changing hands,
Uh,
that's something has to happen.
yeah. So what do you think about the Navi system? I went and observed it, and I was like, it's like it just it doesn't have a long route. So can you tell our listeners what that is and give us your take on it?
Well, it's so new and I haven't ridden it myself, but I see it. I work downtown, so I see it, and I can't tell you how many people are riding it, but it's a new, um it's supposed to be an autonomous vehicle system that will take you through downtown. It's run by our Jacksonville Transportation Authority, JTA, and it is an urban circulator, is part of the urban circulator system, and it's trying to move people from point A to point B to point C downtown without having to get into their cars. And because that's a
So
big
it's like a
issue.
park and ride kind of a thing. Park
Yeah,
your car at a
yeah,
parking lot and then jump on.
and you can
And is
jump on and go
there a
downtown.
driver?
There is a driver
There
on
isn't.
it. It's
Okay.
being developed so that you don't need a driver, but there is a driver for now, just to make sure that everything works. So it's so new, it's really hard to tell how successful it will be. And also now is kind of a downtime because of the holidays. So we'll probably see once New Year starts and the weather's really nice and it becomes Florida, we'll see how it works.
Yeah, folks out there who are not in Florida, it is cold. I think it's in the 40s or 50s today, and it's cold for us Floridians.
Yes, yes. That's where they sell the coats.
Yeah, but it's so cold. Oh dear. So, again, I see all the ups and downs. I see things changing in downtown. Like you said, I actually, for the first time in all this time, see, I mean, I used to shop downtown before Regency was even there, but like all of us. So, what seems to separate these projects that start and they gain traction and then some of them quietly fade away?
You mean those that don't happen? Because we've seen that,
A lot.
the joke kind of is Jacksonville is a city of renderings, and for a long time, that really seemed to be true because you get these great renderings and then nothing happens. But now you're kind of getting, again, the money behind it, and it's happening, and we still have a lot of renderings out there. And maybe they will happen, maybe they won't. I kind of wish I knew how to do renderings because I think there's a real business in doing renderings, but they are happening now, but they're still out there. They generate buzz, but this time again, they're happening because there's money behind it, there's planning behind it. And for downtown, the city is still putting a lot of incentives behind these deals.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's happening as well. And when you turning the corner would really be when a developer comes in with its own money and doesn't seek incentives to do a deal, to do a project. Now, I don't know when and if downtowns ever really get to that point. It happens in the suburbs all the time and outside, but we'll see when that happens. But we still have a lot of land downtown and a lot of opportunity for development. So there's a part of downtown, what you may consider downtown, where you went shopping, where I went shopping. A lot of that is still kind of in transition. A lot of the old stores just are not what we remember them as if they're
Yeah.
there. But those properties are there and people own them or people are trying to sell them. So we'll see.
See.
The Gateway Jacks folks own, like, I wanna say 22 to 25 blocks downtown.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's like when I think of downtown, I think of just one little square area when it's
Exactly.
so much further. I know when I had a property, I managed a rental out in downtown and it was like, oh, this is downtown. It wasn't smack in the center. It was a little bit on the outskirts, but hey, it was downtown. It had the zip code.
Well, downtown is a huge area and it crosses the river as well, so it
Yes.
really fit our image of what downtown is, but for the purposes for the Downtown Investment Authority, it does encompass a lot. It's not walking distance. Well, if you like to
No.
and
Well, it
cross a
depends on who
bridge.
it is, but not me.
Yeah.
Not me. I'm not walking that. Well, let's shift a little bit to another story that I saw that and I read from you. You wrote about the leadership changes in our Chamber of Commerce
Mhm.
with the appointment of Ari Jolly as the volunteer chair. So,
Yeah.
why are leadership transitions like this worth paying attention to?
The chamber has a system in which there is a volunteer chair every year.
Right.
And the volunteer chair is the leader who goes out into the community and worldwide to represent the city and to represent the Chamber of Commerce. And the chair always has a board of directors, and there are the board of governors, and these folks are out there representing the city, and these are business people who go out and do this on their time. And it's important because it's business leaders talking to other business leaders. And if you are going out to represent your community and your industry, you speak the language of the companies that you are trying to recruit. And so it's important to make sure that we have a diversity of leadership in terms of what you represent, what parts of town, which industries, healthcare, huge healthcare community. We can talk about that too, and banking and whatever sort of industry we have. To recruit within those industries, you need to be able to communicate with those other companies and tell them, yeah, this is Jacksonville. This is Northeast Florida. These are the 7 counties. This is what we have. This is where you can come and do business and be successful and hire people and create jobs. So the leadership change is important to make sure that you have the right people in the right place at the right time, making the right message that needs to be shared worldwide.
Very interesting. So I know that a lot of business owners, and I'll address like small business owners, okay? So they're not the big banks, they're the mom and pops of the world, those types of businesses. So for these business owners, a lot of them see a chamber as a networking opportunity. Just
Mhm.
you get together in the small groups and you have lunch or dinner or whatever, you listen to a speaker. What do you think these businesses oftentimes are overlooking that they could get from the chamber that they're not?
I think that, we've been members of the chamber. Our company is a small business, and we've been members of the chamber. And our publisher, Angie Campbell, she joined the board of trustees, and she is very active in the downtown council. And she is active and volunteers. And by doing so, she makes the connections that benefit not only the boards that she serves on because she's fantastic, but it benefits us because it gets our name out there. And it also is a resource for us for anything, for information, for tips, news tips, for whatever we might need. But that's where the connection comes in. You have to involve yourself. And you know that better than anybody because you are one of the most involved people in Jacksonville I have ever seen. And you know how to make the connections. And I think that's what small businesses probably when you find the time, and I think you can address that. A lot of times, if you are a sole proprietor, if it's your business, how do you find the time to do this? So it's making the time to do this and to get involved to the extent that you are comfortable and that you can be involved. I don't know of any organization in town that isn't always seeking volunteers.
Yes,
Every business organization I've been a member of is like, we need people on the board. We need people on the task force. We need people for our charity project. We need people. We need people. We need people. It's out there. It's for you to take.
this is very true. I know that when I first joined the chamber over 25, 30 years ago,
Mhm.
I joined the chamber, I paid my dues, and I waited, and nothing happened. And I called my friend who encouraged me to join the chamber, and she said, "Well, what committees have you joined? What have you volunteered to do?" Nothing. Well, that's the results you're getting, nothing. So I immediately threw my hat into the ring, got involved, and that's so you can't just join a chamber and think that magically you're going to get business. You do have to get involved. You do have to get out there and go to the networking events. So those networking events really are important, but it's more than just going there and networking. It's volunteering to be on a committee. If a committee chairmanship happens to present itself to you. People don't know it in this city, but I remember back in the day when I was on the chamber, I was in a different line of work. I was the Chamber of Commerce event chairman. I'm like, hello. And then they told me, "Well, you don't have to do a whole lot. We've got a staff here that will help you." I'm like, yeah, but you do. You have to do things. But still, the message here is don't just pay your dues, you have to really pay your dues.
Exactly.
Have to
And
think.
there are many organizations to join in addition to the chamber. Do you have an alumni association? Do you have a school connected? One of the biggest networking events I ever attended was my children's sporting events when they were growing up. I got to meet so many people in the community at sporting events. When you play T-ball,
Oh,
you
yeah,
know all the parents on all the teams, and these are people that you network with generally in business as well, and you really get to know people on another level, and I think those connections are very important, is to get to know people outside maybe of your professional role, but also in a community role, and that
absolutely.
happens in so many different ways.
That's the message where when I speak, it's always about those relationships, and those relationships, if you want a really authentic relationship, it's not always business. It's, "Let's go out and have some lunch, let's break some bread, let's talk
Mhm.
about our kids and our grandkids and our pets and whatever," it's like it's really getting to know somebody on a personal level, and that's how
Exactly.
those strong relationships, and that's when you get the referrals and business and all that good stuff. It's like, yeah. So that's
You
great. So, um, let me see what else I wanted to ask you. Okay, well, let's talk about the Jacksonville Jaguars. We have to talk about those Jaguars. I don't watch the games because I feel like I'm going to jinx it, but I check in all the time. How are we doing? So my kids always tease me, "Mom, don't turn on the TV. Don't turn on the TV." Yes. Anyway, I digress. Okay, so you covered the story about the Stadium of the Future. I've seen some of the
Mm,
pictures of the Stadium of the Future for the
yes.
Jacksonville Jaguars. Wow, wow. So, from your perspective, what kinds of conversations does a project like this spark beyond the sports?
First of all, it's a huge investment.
Yeah,
$1.5 billion total in the stadium and the surrounding area.
and that's today's price.
And that's today's price. And that sort of investment, not only does it, of course, involve all the contractors, all the employees, but it involves the communities around them. It involves the national publicity of the stadium and what's happening around there. And the marketing, it's just a continual circle globally of what's happening. And as you know, they have at the Four Seasons, I do want to comment on this. They have 26 condos and penthouses for sale, which you're, I'm sure, aware of. And four of those penthouses now have been spoken for. The four penthouses, all four have been spoken for.
Is that how many there are for?
Four penthouses, and the rest are condos.
Okay, and
And
they're
Shad,
already sold.
yes, and Shad Khan and his two children have three of them. So when you have Shad Khan investing in a penthouse and his children in Jacksonville, it kind of gives you a signal that he intends to be here for some period of time. Now, as part of the stadium, the Jaguars had to agree to a 30-year lease to stay in Jacksonville.
Okay.
So it also means that we will have a team here for 30 years. Oh,
That's important because you always hear about them moving. I mean, because these teams move and the ripple effect of all of this, it's like, okay, so he's buying four, and this is just for the small business owner. Maybe you won't be working with Shad Khan, but it means interior designers and
oh,
decorators. It means painters and all the tradesmen like this. And it just, I'm just thinking of the ripple effect for the small business owner who should be paying attention to what kinds of industries this could, it's like the carpet cleaners, the tile cleaners. I'm just thinking because obviously, because I'm in real estate. So
exactly.
I think of those things in real estate that this will have the ripple effect. They're going to event, people will buy the condos. They'll want to buy them. They'll want to sell them. Hello, you need people who can stage. And sorry, but Grand, my brain goes to real estate.
No, it should. I mean,
But there's
that's
all kinds of things. You're going to need dog walkers or sitters and house sitters and all these kinds of things because hey, that's what it brings. It really is a ripple effect. So I really just kind of answered my next question was what industries is this going should be paying attention to this. So and not only that, here's one that just random popped into my head, a florist. People love
oh,
flowers. So maybe you can offer, I'm sure there's retail space in this Four Seasons. Open up a floral shop.
and if you have city contracts They really have part of the city contract or part of the city incentives is you have the small and emerging business program. And so that's something to look into as well, because you may be able to take part in some of these contracts by being what is called a JSEB, a Jacksonville Small and Emerging Business.
And
And
isn't there a program specifically for that? I think I attended a conference where
Mhm.
I was speaking about that, and I was fascinated by what he was doing. But you have to be a Jacksonville-based business.
Yes, there is a form. You can go onto the city website or you can just Google, Jacksonville Small and Emerging Business Program, and you will find all the information that you need. And it's also on the Jaguars website as well.
Okay, it
If
was
you look into the Stadium of the Future,
yeah. So, when is the Stadium of the Future supposed to be built and finished?
it's supposed to be finished in time for the season of 2028.
Wow. So, during all that time, will the Jaguars be playing elsewhere?
Next year, the Jaguars in 2027, the Jaguars will be playing at home at a reduced capacity of, I believe, 48,000 seats. For 2027, the Jaguars will be playing elsewhere. And we don't know for sure, but we believe Orlando makes the most sense. And so that year, though, and this also not only affects the Jaguars, it affects any other event that would be using the stadium or around the stadium. And I know that the Visit Jacksonville, the Convention and Visitors organization, is concerned about how that's going to affect the city when you lose those big ticket events like that. For a
Right.
year. So keep in mind that you need to be aware of that.
I
As
wasn't even aware that Orlando had a football field.
Yeah, they have a stadium that can be used. They do.
Okay.
And we heard it was between Orlando and Gainesville. And the only issue I think with Gainesville is perhaps the size and the capacity. And you also have to think in terms of, does Gainesville have the hotel rooms that would accommodate all of the people who travel for football?
So, you know what else that brings in? I think small business. Airbnb. Hello.
Yes, Airbnbs are a big business, as you well
That
know.
would be awesome. It's like, okay, so for all you small business owners out there thinking, oh, these are all for the big companies. No, the small companies can look for the low hanging fruits. I always say, go for those.
Well, and when you look at some of the big companies, how did they start?
Oh, absolutely.
You
They don't
know,
start with millions and billions.
a lot of big companies began as small businesses.
That's exactly right.
And, you just never know
Start
where
somewhere.
we've had some very good business growth in Jacksonville by people who had an idea, started it, grew it, sold it, started another idea.
True. Very
Yeah.
true. So, for business owners who are listening today and they want to stay informed without chasing the headlines, what's your advice on how do you pay attention smarter?
I would say, read our paper, read our website,
Yeah.
subscribe, go online because we keep our ears to the ground and we try to be fast and we try to get those urgent big stories out there. But also, I would say, look everywhere. You can there are so many sources of information. However, be very vigilant about your sources of information because there are blogs or you name it that really don't pay as much attention to the truth. And I would say the truth in terms of facts that others do. You have to know where your facts are coming from and you have to know the source of the information. We always give the sources of our information. And so you will know you can trust or better trust a news site if you know their sources of the information.
And I would think
Yeah.
most cities have some sort of resource like the Daily Record.
They do. And there's so many ways to find those sources of information online. You can look online, you can Google just about anything and be ready also with AI. If AI is everywhere and everything you do is going to be influenced by AI or generated by AI. Be very careful with that as well. AI is growing exponentially. By the end of this sentence, it's probably achieved yet another milestone. but you have to be prepared for knowing how to believe it and what to believe, and that's
Yeah.
still a big issue right now, and I know when my grandkids, in a generation from now, they'll be making fun of me. I remember, Zelda, I go back to when the internet was new, okay, and I
Oh, I
remember
remember it. Oh, I remember it.
when the internet started, it was,
DOS
oh,
DOS was the only thing you could get. There was no and there were no it wasn't loaded with Office or anything. It was like
oh, no.
you go to the store and you buy a floppy disk or whatever.
Yeah. So we're really at the continuing on the dawn of the information age. It's still out there, but it's the same then though as it is now. The same now as it is then. You have to know the sources of your information
Yeah.
in order to get it correct. I'd say that maybe a real currency for the future is accuracy and factual information. And I think small businesses are always extremely good at knowing where to find the actual factual information, you
Like,
know?
I love reading the Jacksonville Daily Record because it keeps me on top of what's happening in the community. It's great. I can keep up with what's businesses are coming and going. I keep up with what are the top 10 real estate deals of the week and all
Yes,
that good stuff. I love that. I just eat that stuff up. So, yeah,
good.
I love it. So, keep those and I like the newspaper. I don't like the digital. I gets comes in the mail and I love it. I'm like, "Yay, it's here." So
Thank
Mov
you, thank you.
moving I love it, I love it. I look for everybody's byline. I go, "What did Karen write today?" It's like, I look for all that stuff. So what's the best way for our audience, our listeners to reach you if they wanna connect with you?
Well, our website is jacksdailyrecord.com. You can always reach us through that. And my email is kmathis@jacksdailyrecord.com. And those are the two best ways to reach me, but also LinkedIn. I'm on
Yeah,
LinkedIn, so you can reach me that way. And those are probably the three best ways to reach me. And on jacksdailyrecord.com, all of our emails are available with our stories and on our website. So we're pretty easy to reach. And I do want to encourage people to reach out to reporters. If you have a story idea, a story correction, a story clarification, something to continue a story, reach out to us because otherwise we don't know. We have to hear from our readers and from our audience to really know what's going on. So never hesitate to reach out to a reporter, whether it's us or on any news site. Everybody loves to hear from our readers, from our viewers, from our customers. You
well, that's
always
something
want.
I wanted to ask you. It didn't occur to me until you just mentioned that, and it's like definitely audience. You have to reach out, but how does one I'm sure my listeners would like to know, how do they become a reporter's go-to resource for whatever industry they're in?
If you have a specialty, reach out to the reporter who is focusing on that specialty or to the editor because the editor would be able to direct you to the right person and say, look, I'm available. And if you need any information, clarification, let me know and I'll be happy to participate. Never fail to do that because we always are looking for people in the industry who can comment. And I think this is one of the things that small business really would have a very big strength in, and that is you're able to comment because you are the owner of the business. You don't have to go through your public relations department, your CEO, or anything to be able to comment on a story because you are all of those things.
Yeah.
And because you have the freedom and the knowledge to respond quickly, a lot of times you will be able to say, hey, look, I'm boots on the ground. I can tell you exactly what's happening here.
Yeah.
And don't ever hesitate to do that. If and when you do establish that relationship, when a reporter or editor contacts you, be available because one big change in the industry is it's 24/7 and you have to have the contact now and the information now. It's changed so much that way back in the day, you had the morning newspaper and the 6 o'clock news
Right.
and that was it. Now it's 24/7 and we're updating things all the time, all the time. So just
Reach
be
out.
ready to respond.
Awesome. So I have one final question. It's my signature question. I tell everybody I ask this one to everybody. So here it goes. If you haven't heard it before, it's can you share a story of an opportunity that presented itself to you because of a connection that you had?
We're doing it right now. I made a connection with you. You made a connection with me. We've known each other for decades. And so you said, would you invited me so kindly to be a part of this. If I had not made a connection with you, this wouldn't be happening. And so this is a primary example of how a connection works.
It's true, and connection work because it's not just I reach out to Karen and say, "Karen, I'd like to be your go-to source for podcasting and for real estate news in our area." It's I genuinely care about Karen, and I follow her and keep up with her she follows Christmas trees, and she takes pictures of Christmas trees during the holiday, and I love looking at the trees, and her grandchildren and her life, and I just have lunch with you, and I I
It's a
just
great lunch.
it's just yeah, it's a great lunch, it is. And so make those connections, and that is why we are called Success Through Connections. I thank everyone for joining us today. I thank you, Karen, for joining us. I want you to make sure that y'all hit subscribe because that's how we grow this. I need you to subscribe. And I want to thank my company, which is Legacy Realty Group North Florida. So if you have a real estate need, whether it's buying, selling, or you need hands-on property management, I never drop the ball because I stay ahead of it. So remember, success does not happen in isolation. It happens because of the connections that we have. So connections, they are your currency and connections are the power move. So until next week, I'm Zelda Greenberg, your host of Success Through Connections.